The Allen Line Company appreciates all of the dedicated carriers it takes to move loads across the U.S. Stay safe.
OOIDA, representing America's truckers since 1973, presents Landline Now with your host, Mark Redding.
The transportation and logistics company Ryder has a new report that lays out in great detail the cost of transitioning from diesel to electric trucks, not just to Ryder itself, but to the greater economy. Darren Epps, Ryder's Senior Director for Advanced Vehicle Technology, joins the program with a breakdown of what they found. Also on today's program, Terry Wells describes himself as just a regular guy. However, many people who know him clearly think he's a lot more. His mother, a Marine veteran, suggested a military career. But these days, the Navy veteran drives a truck, and his carrier has set up a special truck for him in honor of his service. I'll talk with him about his service, his time in trucking, and more. But first, the news with Scott Thompson.
Thanks, Mark. Our top story this Friday: the expected decision by the Drug Enforcement Agency to reclassify marijuana as a less dangerous drug. It's a move that could have implications for the trucking industry, which we'll get into in just a moment. But for now, what we know is that the DEA's notice of proposed rulemaking puts the wheels in motion for changing marijuana from a Schedule I drug, the most serious category, to a Schedule III drug, which is defined as having a moderate to low potential for dependence. The move is in response to a cultural and legal shift across the nation. Recreational marijuana is now legal in 24 states, medical marijuana in 13, but recategorizing weed would not mean it's legal on a federal basis. Schedule III drugs are still controlled substances and subject to rules and regulations. As for the impact on trucking, that also remains to be seen. Marijuana use is banned for truckers without exception, and professional drivers are routinely subjected to DOT drug and alcohol testing regulations. The Owner-Operator Independent Drivers Association, in a statement, said it is monitoring the situation, also noting the uncertainty surrounding it. OOID wrote that the announcement has no immediate direct effect on drug testing programs for commercial drivers and anticipates there will be numerous regulatory, legislative, and legal actions over the next few years that will determine if testing for DOT safety-sensitive personnel should be modified. As such, the association says this will be an opportunity to examine issues such as impairment levels, impairment detection, roadside enforcement capabilities, medical benefits, and driver retention, among other issues. In the end, OOIDA says highway safety must be the most important factor when evaluating if changes are necessary. As for the DEA notice, it will run through the regulatory process, including a comment period, after which time the agency will determine next steps. A bipartisan group of U.S. lawmakers have introduced bills dedicated to electric vehicles. Both take aim at a final rule from the U.S. Department of the Treasury that implements the 30D Clean Vehicle Credit. The resolution would end tax credits for electric vehicles with batteries containing Chinese-sourced materials like graphite. Senator Joe Manchin of West Virginia is sponsoring the bill on the Senate side of Capitol Hill. U.S. Representatives Carol Miller of West Virginia and Jared Golden of Maine are leading the effort in the House. Explaining her support for the bill, Senator Deb Fischer of Nebraska said in a statement that President Biden is trying to prop up America's transition to EVs by keeping Chinese graphite flowing into the United States. The senator said China will be the one to ultimately profit off the administration's green energy dreams, adding if President Biden wants to force EVs onto Americans, he should at least find another source of graphite. A House bill with implications for the trucking industry directly is also gaining support. 4 new lawmakers have signed on as co-sponsors of the Transportation Security Screening Modernization Act this week, bringing the total to 40. The bipartisan bill is aimed at current TSA policies, which often require separate applications for required credentials, like the Transportation Worker Identification Credential and hazardous materials endorsements. That is despite TSA already conducting a security threat assessment for each of those programs. The bill would standardize and streamline the process. There's also a Senate version. It currently has 3 co-sponsors. When introduced in March, Senator Roger Wicker of Mississippi said it would cut through the red tape so workers can get back to moving goods across America, not wasting time and money. The number of trailers ordered last month was up slightly compared to a month earlier. ACT Research says orders were placed for 13,700 units in April. And while that's a slight increase from March, it's up 21% compared to the same month last year. Jennifer McNeely of ACT Research said in a news release that order activity continues to meet expectations, among pent-up demand waning and supply chain congestion clearing for the most part. As the market improves, the firm expects sales of power units to pick up before trailers, especially ahead of the EPA's new regulations. An alleged cargo theft ring that targeted multiple states in the Northeast has been broken up. That's according to the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York, which announced charges against 8 men they say are connected with a scheme dubbed the Beer Theft Enterprise. For nearly 2 years leading up to March, prosecutors say the men stole beer from railroad cars and distribution facilities located throughout the Northeast, including in Connecticut, Massachusetts, New Jersey, and New York. The stolen beer was then usually taken to the Bronx and sold. Each defendant is facing 7 separate charges, the most serious of which carries a maximum sentence of 20 years in prison. Another electric truck charging station is coming to the Port of Long Beach. Form Mobility announced it recently broke ground on FM Harbor, as it's called. The station will be capable of charging more than 200 electric trucks each day. Construction set to be complete by the end of this year. According to the California Energy Commission, 157,000 medium and heavy-duty chargers will be needed by the year 2030 to comply with the state's emission goals for drayage fleets. Watt EV recently opened an electric truck charging station near the Pier A terminal in the Port of Long Beach. It is capable of charging 26 trucks at the same time. Late last month, we told you about Vermont's plans to keep semis off of Smuggler's Notch, that notorious stretch of Route 108 where trucks are banned. They installed barriers called chicanes to stop tractor-trailers and other oversized vehicles from entering, forcing them to turn around. But it didn't work on Thursday morning. VTrans says a truck driver used the left lane to avoid the new barriers, but before they could get stuck on the narrow road, they turned around. Signs warning truckers to turn around are featured prominently leading up to Smuggler's Notch, but every year, several get stuck and are fined. A heads up to you Oregon drivers out there, the state DOT giving advance warning of a highway closure next month. The northbound section of the Interstate 5 bridge in Portland will be closed on June 15th from 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. the next morning. The Oregon DOT says the closure is necessary for rebuilding sign brackets and replacing traffic control lights. Detours will, of course, be posted. The convenience store chain Wawa has announced plans to build its first ever travel center. The Greater Fayetteville Business Journal reports that Wawa will open up a new location in Hope Mills, North Carolina next year. It's a new concept for Wawa, one designed to accommodate family travels and professional drivers with larger restrooms and free truck parking. Wawa says the Hope Mills location will have high-speed diesel fueling bays and a cat weigh station as well. It is expected to open up in the first half of 2025. And finally, a Love's location a couple hours outside of Dallas has reopened. The travel stop in Ranger, Texas, off Interstate 20 had been shut down for renovations. The location includes 81 truck parking spaces. That's Lane Line Now News for today. I'm Scott Thompson.
Thanks, Scott. To take part in Mission Military Appreciation, just go to ooida.com and click on Become a Member. You can join or renew your membership for a discounted rate, and 10% of that will go into the Truckers for Troops Fund, with OOIDA matching that money dollar for dollar. Again, just go to the website ooida.com. Starting Saturday, Marty Ellis and OOIDA's tour truck, The Spirit of the American Trucker, will be at the Petro in Waterloo, New York. That's located at Exit 41 off Interstate 90. Stop in, say hi to Marty, and join OOIDA for a $10 discount. Next, Scott Thompson talks with Darren Epps of Ryder about the cost of transitioning to electric trucks. And I'll talk with veteran and trucker Terry Wells about the truck his carrier purchased and designed to honor his service. I'm Mark Reddick, and this is Landline Now.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe. If you want more content, go to landline.media to get updated news, information, and archived editions of our show. Once again, that's landline.media.
Capital Reman is your leading source for quality remanufactured engines and components. Capital Reman stands ready to serve all OOIDA members to help reduce costly engine repairs or replacement. Visit capitalreman.com today and use code OOIDA10 to save.
Get the most power performance out of your rig with Howe's Diesel Defender. It provides maximum lubricity and contains specialized IDX4 detergent to clean and prevent deposits and safely removes harmful water. Visit HowesProducts.com for more information.
Attention professional drivers, do you owe money to the IRS? Integrity Tax Relief Group frees drivers from IRS trouble. Call for help now, 855-976-4291. That's 855-976-4291.
It's tested and proven. Burn 2.1% less fuel when you balance all wheel ends with Centromatic. Call 800-523-8473 to get the OOIDA discount.
Landline now, welcome back. The transportation and logistics company Ryder is out with a new report that paints a pretty stark picture of a future that depends on electric trucks to move American goods. We're talking a massive cost to convert fleets to electric, and that's just the start. Joining us to break down the analysis is Darren Epps. Darren is Ryder's Senior Director for Advanced Vehicle Technology, and he joins us on the line now. Darren, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So I imagine this push to go electric is at the front of mind for people like yourself and for companies like Ryder. This is obviously a big undertaking, but you can kind of start us off here by walking us through how this analysis got started and what it really took to come up with the numbers that we're going to discuss here in just a moment.
Right. Well, we have so many customers who have reached out to us about this transition. Like you said, it's on the front of a lot of people's minds, especially with some regulations out there. So our customers lean on us to guide them in the right direction. So, it got to a point where we wanted to, provide them with realistic comparisons. We're in a unique situation because, Ryder has the fleet size to run an analysis and get all the different factors when you're talking about, we run over 13,000 vehicles on behalf of customers alone. So we were able to have the data, we have the fleet size, and we really wanted to be able to give our customers realistic information on what that transition would look like.
Yeah, and let's get into these numbers here without much further ado here, because the cost of making this transition, and as you pointed out there, you've got all the data there that you basically need to kind of paint a picture here. And this would be an enormous cost to Ryder specifically, not just to go, to go electric here, we're talking. By extension, you found this would end up having an effect on the greater economy as well. Walk us through these numbers here with Ryder in particular. What it would take specifically to make Ryder fully electric in terms of operational costs.
Yeah, well, in our in the white paper we released on the EV total cost of transport, we were able to analyze not just the cost of the units, but the time it would take to go from point A to point B. Obviously, charging takes longer than filling up a diesel tank. And so what that means for hours of service, for instance, establishing the charging infrastructure, that's one that is kind of near and dear to me. I used to be in the utility industry working on electric transportation, and certainly there is a lack of infrastructure. There still needs to be a lot of breaking of ground in many aspects, and that's something we assumed a network of chargers in this that doesn't even exist, just so we could map out and have the data. So it's very complex. There's going to be some needs on the power grid, particularly when it comes to high voltage transmission lines, for instance, that take years and years and years to build out for the expansion of EVs, but not just EVs. There are other growing demands on the grid. I'm in Georgia. Data centers are popping up all the time. They use a massive amount of energy. So there's other competing industries as well. So our energy system is a lot different than it was over 100 years ago when the grid was built out. I know there's I know FERC put out recently a rule to get people planning for 20, 30 years in advance, but it can't take that long. And when you look at the amount of power it takes, 9, 10 megawatts of power, that's that's what powers the Empire State Building, for instance. A small town is 20 megawatts, approximately. So we're talking about huge amounts of power. So that's really where a lot of the cost comes, and that's working with the utilities, and then wherever the infrastructure is put. I mean, there's definitely a high cost there.
Yeah, and when we're looking at this issue, there are a whole bunch of challenges that are kind of swirling around, and you bring up an obvious one there with the infrastructure or the lack thereof, right? It's just not there right now. And to get us where we want to be, or where we would need to be at least, would just be a huge undertaking, right? So you talk about that cost, and then you talk about the cost in this report specifically to Ryder in terms of converting your, diesel model as it is right now to a fully electric model. And the feasibility of that, just looking at the percentages of increases here, that's another thing that just raised my eyebrows, I know for sure, and I know it has as well for other people. Can you just talk about, for Ryder specifically, what this would cost to make this transition? Maybe in a perfect world, I don't know, if everything else were lined up perfectly, it would still cost a whole bunch of money for your company, right?
Right. As it says in the white paper, we showed a pretty modest increase when you talk about light duty, like vans. Those typically are less expensive, and you don't need all the infrastructure. It's if you can charge it overnight, you can use a AC level 2 charger that is essentially a dryer plug. So obviously a much smaller scale. So you see just a tiny increase there on the light duty side. But the bigger the truck, the more power it needs, the higher charging it needs. That's when you go on, medium duty. It goes up way up, and then on heavy duty, up to I think it was 114% to cost increase to convert. So you multiply that. We manage over 250,000 vehicles. We operate, like I said, over 13,000 for our customers, and so the cost add up really quick to go 100% EV. So that's why we're tech agnostic. We just want to find the right application for the customers. It might be a different technology. It might be electric. Electric definitely works in some cases. We're considering all options going forward to reduce emissions.
Yeah, and I think that's an incredibly important point that you point out there, is that you're looking at these numbers, you're not looking at them trying to prove one thing or another. I mean, the numbers take you where they take you.
Exactly.
And in this case, they take you to a place that would cost your company and a lot of other companies a lot of money. And by extension, you found in this report, too, I thought was interesting, that in doing all of this, every action has a reaction, obviously. And in doing this, if this were to, fall in place as some people hope it would, it's going to lead to consumers paying more as well, right? You talk about inflation. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Right. So, in the end, when prices go up, the consumers pay, regardless of the industry. And that would obviously be the case. There's higher transportation cost to move a good, then that gets passed on to the consumer. So we did analysis of that as well, and found that the increases could possibly add, 0.5 to 1% to overall inflation, which is, already a significant issue right now. So you're right to go back to what you originally said. We didn't go into this with any bias. Our job is to, integrate corporate responsibility and sustainability with our customers and ourselves. We're, like I said, tech agnostic. Every customer has different needs. Our job is to find the perfect application for that. So we just wanted to be able to, with a great deal of intelligence and experience, let our customers know, what the true cost is, that, minus just the infrastructure. There's a little reduction in payload in some cases. I mentioned the hours of service, just all the other things that may not be obvious.
So based on what you found here, and there's a lot to absorb, we're just scratching the surface of what you found here. But I know, Ryder, you are investing in electric vehicles as we speak right now. Based on this analysis and based on what you found out and, kind of taking that down the course of action here, and maybe you can't speak to this, that may be fine as well, but is Ryder, Are you planning on doing anything differently based on this analysis in moving ahead with your EV plans, or is that kind of up in the air right now?
No, we have launched and actively have a dedicated service about a year ago, Ryder Electric Plus, to help our customers, simplify and run battery-powered fleets. Includes the charging equipment, the maintenance, the advisory, and makes it one simple contract. And that's really resonated well with customers, particularly the electric advisory services that we offer as part of that Ryder Electric Plus bundle, where we look at the fleet and the data and from the telematics, et cetera, and say, look, these are probably not ripe for electrification, but these units are. And that can lead to efficiencies overall by just evaluating the network. So we're able to simplify on the light duty side. I think this study sort of confirmed that is the easiest path forward, and not sticker shock, so to speak, as say a tractor. So we still have Ryder Electric Plus, but we always are going to have our ear to the ground. I know this white paper will be a conversation starter and probably the first step of many conversations, because it's not just within our industry, but the utility industry, for instance. There's a lot of conversations that need to be had that typically probably didn't need to happen before. Trucking and leasing with utilities. So it's some new conversations for sure.
You bring up a good point there, because I've said this before, and my guess is that we are going to see more and more companies like Ryder crunch their own numbers, come up with their own analysis based on what they're seeing. And I suspect that we're going to hear, a lot of the same things that we're hearing from you here, because, when we look at the reality of the situation, it kind of makes sense as to the cost of all of this. You've obviously thought a lot about this and going through all these numbers. I guess the Class 8 version of this, the Class 8 truck, as you point out, is kind of the outlier here. It may be feasible on a kind of a smaller scale with lighter duty vehicles. Heavy duty vehicles, maybe not as feasible. Is there going to be, do you think, a time where maybe we focus more on the light duty stuff and kind of leave the heavy duty stuff to come along as the rest of it does? I mean, I guess where do you think this is all heading based on what you're seeing from the numbers?
Yeah, I think, like I said, I think this is, the first of many discussion points. The technology changes. It changes so fast. I mean, 15 years ago, the idea of an electric car was the Tesla Roadster and then the Nissan Leaf after that. It was just barely a blip on the radar, and now you see them all the time. So technology can happen fast, but there's a lot of vehicles on the road, and in the commercial industry is different than passenger cars, where sort of a more of an emotional decision. Whereas in our industry it is about cost. So I think we'll keep our ear to the ground. There's new technologies coming out all the time, new ways to charge, for instance. There's new players in the game every year. So it's definitely going to be an evolving conversation. We'll probably end up doing deeper analysis as we have these conversations, identify gaps, and solve for and deploy electric vehicles where it makes sense. So certainly at this present time, the light duty is a lot easier to get into, but it's something that's going to evolve like any new technology.
Yeah, and from what I hear from owner-operators and truck drivers in general is that, if the free market takes care of it and we get to that point and it's more efficient for everybody, then great, But I think the mandates is the thing that really has people concerned, and I'm sure I know we are going to hear more about this in the years to come. This is a conversation, as you said, that is going to continue for quite some time as we watch all of this evolve. Darren, we'll have to leave it there. Unfortunately, we wish we could talk to you longer, but that's all our time for now. But we really appreciate it, and we'll encourage everybody to go check out the report for themselves. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Enjoyed it.
Our thanks to Darren Epps for his time. If you'd like to check out the report for yourself, we've got a link at landlinenow.com. We've got to take a break, but hang tight. There's more show right after this short commercial break.
Penske owns and operates some of the best-maintained vehicles on the planet. Our used trucks come with a 5-year maintenance report and pre-sale inspection. So if you're in the market for a top-quality pre-owned truck, look no further. Search our inventory today at PenskeUsedTrucks.com.
Control your toll costs and eliminate tolling headaches with Prepass Tolls. Prepass Tolls means toll volume discounts. Just one invoice for all tolls and fewer violations. Call 877-878-5970 or go to prepass.com.
Ready to make more money? Use a better load board. For a limited time, get 50% off TruckStop Load Board Pro. Just go to truckstop.com/go and enter promo code READY2024 when you purchase Load Board Pro.
Terry Wells describes himself as just a regular guy, but clearly many people who know him think that the Washington, D.C. native is a lot more than that. You're listening to Landline Now, and I'm your host, Mark Redding. Welcome back to the program. After growing up in the state of Kentucky, he was deciding what to do with his life. His mother, who served in the U.S. Marines, had a suggestion: start a career in the military. And he did that. But these days, the Navy veteran drives a truck, something he's been doing for many years after leaving the military. Recently, his carrier, Bufflin Trucking of Minnesota, did something special. They purchased and set up a truck just for him with a custom-designed appearance that honors his service aboard the USS Lafayette, a nuclear submarine. He'll now drive that truck, which is painted navy blue and which has an image of the Lafayette on its side for his longtime carrier. I spoke recently with Wells about his service, his time in trucking, and more.
I joined the Navy in 1974, and I wanted to be a jet pilot, but because I didn't have 20/20 vision in those days, they, wouldn't let me sign up for that. And they showed me a pamphlet that showed a nuclear submarine, and I said, well, I'll do that. So I signed up for the program to go in the Navy and be in the submarine service.
Was it your family history with military service that kind of led you to want to do that?
To tell you the truth, it was my mother. My mother, she was the one who said that it would probably be the best thing for me. We weren't in a situation where, I could afford to go to college. We're talking about, a long time ago, things were a lot different than they are today, as far as going to school and with loans and all that kind of thing. But like I said, she was in the Marines, and she led a ship-shape household. And she actually went with me to the recruiter's office, and like I said, I wanted to be a jet pilot. I thought about it. And, but like I said, they didn't allow, they explained to me that you'd never have the command of an aircraft if you didn't have 20/20 vision. And, that's when they showed me these pamphlets for different areas to go in. I had good scores that I had taken a battery of tests, and, they said that you can do any of these things, and showed me the pamphlet. And when I opened up the one for the submarine, I said, well, I think I'd like to try to do this right here. And that's how I ended up, joining the submarine service. The other thing was that also I went in as what they called back in those days a push button E3. I went in the Navy as a full seaman, and was also guaranteed after my first A school that I would be promoted to E4 automatically without having to take any tests or anything, if I could make it through that Polaris Electronics A school. And that's why, the deal that they were offering and, what I had seen in the pamphlet, that's the reason I, joined the Navy.
I know you served on the USS Lafayette, and as I understand it, that's a ballistic missile submarine. What sort of duties did you have there on the Lafayette?
Okay, I was a missile technician, And all of my job requirements, my direct job requirements were, first of all, I had to qualify submarines. And I did that on my first patrol to get my dolphins. And that's where you qualify, where the captain takes you around to all compartments in case you were in those compartments when, if anything went wrong and the doors had to be closed, you had to at least have a basic knowledge of all the systems in every compartment, whether they were part of your billet or not. And that was my first, to be able to continue to be on a submarine to start with. And then as far as my direct duties as a missile technician, they were all in the missile compartment. They included, the missile, which was a C-3 Poseidon missile, and the launcher, the launch tube, and all the, equipment that interfaces from fire control and from navigations to the missile, to keep it ready to be fired if it needed to be fired. And my job day in and day out was to perform, like preventative maintenance on all of the subsystems that were related to the missile or the launcher or the tube itself, as well as, the upkeep of the compartment and all that, just regular duties, housekeeping duties on a Navy ship.
Okay. Now, I know eventually you did get into trucking, and you've been with your current carrier for about 10 years. How did you go about transitioning from the military and into trucking? How did that happen?
That was a long road because I didn't start trucking until I was in my early 40s. Although my dad, actually it was my stepdad, he was a truck driver. He was a union driver for a while. But I kind of rebelled against, that kind of thing when I was a kid. But that pretty much changed when I got out of the service in 1977. I used my GI Bill and went to college in Alabama, and I got an associate's degree in art, an associate's degree in science at Southern Union State Junior College in Wadley, Alabama. And then I transferred to Jacksonville State University in Jacksonville, Alabama. And the thing is I made it through my junior year, and then the monies for my GI Bill started running out, and I was having to start working other jobs, and, the economy wasn't going so well. And I actually dropped out. I didn't finish my 4-year degree. And I was primarily an engineering major then. But the thing is I moved home, and I went to work for a company, Rettenback Construction Company out of Texas, that was building a high-rise parking garage next to the Wyman Auditorium in Nashville, Tennessee. So I went to work as a form carpenter, and I worked at that for a few years, and I think I spent maybe 4 years there in Nashville, and I ended up moving to West Palm Beach, Florida. And I went down there, and I worked all kinds of different kinds of jobs. I was a lifeguard at the beach. I was, waited tables, got lawn maintenance, you name it, I did it. And the thing is I think it was in like 1994, a friend of mine went to work for a major trucking company, U.S. Express, I think's the name of them. And he went to their school and stuff, and he would come home off the road, and, I'd get up in the truck with him, and he was showing me and stuff. And he showed me a pamphlet for a company out in West Valley City, Utah, called C.R. England and Sons at that time. So in 1997, just kind of scraping by, I decided, I gave them a call, and they had a school in Spartanburg, South Carolina, and said I need to go down and get a CDL permit, Class A permit, and $200, and come on up and we'll put you through school and get you going. So I did. I went to Spartanburg, spent 2 weeks. Then I went out to West Valley City to the main office at C.R. England, and they put me through a 2-week orientation and sent me on the road with a driver instructor. And I spent 2 tenures with him, about 5 months. And then I went solo and started driving truck for C.R. England.
Okay. Now, you've been about 10 years with your current carrier. Tell us a little bit about that. I mean, what kind of routes have you run? What kind of freight have you hauled, and so on?
Yes, sir. Bufflin Trucking here in Rosal. We primarily haul for Polaris, which is the snowmobiles and four-wheel machines. The thing is that's actually 8 years this month. On the 28th of this month, I will have been with Bufflin for 8 years, not 10. And the thing is but 8 years ago, the couple of years before that, I had been driving off-road in the oil fields up in Williston and Crosby, North Dakota. And, it was a transition. I had, couple 6 years, I think it was like 2004, I moved from West Palm Beach out to Rock Springs, Wyoming. And that's my home domicile now. And that's where I got my first taste working in the oil field, which is a completely different kind of a thing than over-the-road trucking like I'm doing now. And but anyway, I ended up following actually the oil rigs around down into Colorado. There was a big boom that went on down there, and then the Bakken oil field opened up, and all the rigs moved up to North Dakota. And I ended up getting with a company that actually used pneumatic trailers and hauled sand. And I hired on with them and went up there and was hauling sand from the railheads out to the fracks in the oil field. And then contracts changed, different things happened, and then I went to work for another company, and I was hauling production water in the oil rigs. And one of the guys that I worked with, he was from Bloomington, Minnesota, and his name was Dave Hofstad. And we worked together, I think, 6 months or something. And then he moved back home, and I guess a contract fell out on what I was doing, and I went home to my parents' home in Nashville, and he gave me a call and told me about the company I'm working for now, Bufflin Trucking, and said that I should give them a call, and I gave them a call, and they, asked me how fast I could get up there, that they could put me to work immediately, and that's how I got here.
I've been talking with trucker Terry Wells about his service in the Navy and his career in trucking. We'll be back in a moment with more of that conversation. Meanwhile, to take part in Mission Military Appreciation, just go to ooida.com and click on Become a Member. You can join or renew your membership for a discounted rate, and 10% of that will go into the Truckers for Troops Fund, with OOIDA matching that money. We'll be back in just a moment with more of the show. I'm Mark Reddick, and this is Landline Now.
Are you tired of the IRS following you around like a dark cloud? Call 888-557-4020 and get your life back.
Firestone tires are for more of everything, with more durability for more miles and more confidence in your fleet. Firestone's tested tires help fleets save with value where it matters most. Learn more at bridgestonenationalfleet.com/4moremiles.
Today's rising costs affect everyone. Replace your harmonic damper with a genuine ViberTech TVD viscous damper to prevent costly repairs and downtime. Keep your money in your pocket and your truck on the road with ViberTech TVD. Recommended replacement at 500,000 miles or 15,000 hours.
Since you started, what you've loved about trucking is the freedom. Heading out on your favorite route, a good driving song, and thinking about truck insurance. Well, maybe not that last one. That's why we're here. At OOIDA, we have a full range of truck insurance products, expert advice, and great customer service, helping you get the right coverage for your operation. Go to OOIDA.com, because your job is to drive. Our job is to help with everything else.
Landline Now, welcome back. Before the break, we were talking with trucker Terry Wells about his service in the Navy and his career in trucking, as well as a truck that his carrier bought him with an appearance custom designed to honor his military service. We now continue with that conversation. Now, as I understand it, they've actually given you a truck that's kind of in honor of your military service there. I'm wondering if you could tell us a little bit about the truck. What kind is it? What does it look like? And so on.
Okay, yeah, they did. Actually, the second year I was here, they bought me a brand new truck, and it was a Volvo 780, full condo, over-the-road truck, beautiful truck. And in the next 4.5 years, I put about 650,000 miles on it. Continued to get to know the people I work for here are excellent. I mean, this isn't like the bigger companies that I work for, like CR England, or I also work for Prime Inc. out of Springfield. I work for Jim Palmer Trucking out of Missoula, Montana. And in those days, I was a reefer guy. I temperature control loads. But to get back, the thing is they're excellent people to work for here at Buffalo Trucking.
So tell us what this truck looks like, because as I mentioned earlier, it's kind of been given a visual look that very much represents your time in the service. Can you describe it to someone who maybe doesn't have a chance to see it?
Yes, I lost my train of thought there. That was the ultimate, what you were asking before. This new truck that they got me, it is another Volvo. It's brand new. It's a 2024 Volvo, and I think it's a 680 VNL. It's a full condo, but the thing is the boss, in the years that I've been here, they've gotten to know me, when I'm telling them sea stories about when I was in the service and stuff, and rode on the Lafayette and, about things about like the missiles and the nuclear weapons and all the different things. There's only so much that, was debriefed to be able to tell anybody anyway. It's nothing that's not common knowledge to other people. But they got to know me, and during this 8 years, and I've got an excellent on-time delivery record, which is 100% in my whole trucking career. And, on-time deliveries. And also, I've been fortunate enough not to have any accidents. A few minor incidents, but no accidents. And the thing is this new truck, they showed it to me yesterday. And I didn't even know it was here. The Volvo dealership in Fargo, North Dakota, they, unbeknownst to me, the boss had ordered this truck a couple of years ago. And because of the COVID supply chain situation, Volvo wasn't able to build the truck because of being able to get parts and stuff for a couple of years. And I knew that they had said something about getting me another truck because I had basically worn out the first one that they had given me. And I was in a different truck which was a Freightliner. And they called me into the office yesterday and, said that we were going to have a employee luncheon at noon. So I went in there, and Dean Bufflin, the guy that owns this company, he says, come on, let's go out here. I got to look at this truck out here. So I walked out there with him and saw it. And it was just unbelievable. It's got, it's midnight blue and gold, the Navy colors. It's got my submarine decal on the side of it with the Lafayette SSBN 616, on the hull. And it's got, United States Navy veteran emblems on both sides. And then on the visor on the top, it's got U.S. Navy veteran on it. And it was a little bit more than I'm still pretty much overwhelmed with it, to tell you the truth. But it's a brand new truck, and it's got all the bells and whistles on it. And as far as the aesthetics, what it looks like, it's pretty unique. It's a good looking truck. I'll be proud to park it in the Iowa 80 truck stop in Davenport or Walcott. So all the other drivers can see it.
Well, fantastic. Well, just one other thing I wanted to ask you, Terry, and that, obviously you're someone that's made that transition from the military and into trucking, although, as you pointed out, it did take you a little while to get there. Is there any advice that you would offer to someone currently serving in the military who's considering a career in trucking?
It can be a good career for the right person in the right situation. I would say to somebody that's in the military like I was, and believe me, I was very young and I was nowhere near as mature as I am now then. And some of the decisions, like, first of all, getting out of the service, I should have never got out of the service. I should have spent 20 years in the service or more. I actually had a chance to go to officer school if I'd re-enlisted. And I could have been a commissioned officer if hadn't been so headstrong to get out of the service, And I would say all the opportunities that the service offers, especially as far as your education goes, you have unbelievable resources to further your education in whatever field anyone would want to go into when you're in the service. And where that translates that's, I guess, an individual preference for each person. But I would say that making the most of the opportunities that you have in the service would allow you to pursue things that are even better than trucking. Trucking is a very demanding occupation, especially if you have a family, because in that business, if the truck is not rolling, you're not making any money, and neither is the company you may be working for. Or if it is your personal truck, you will be making. And that means there's sacrifices to be made with the time that you would be able to spend with your family. But it's an honest profession, that's for sure. And that would be my advice. Make sure that that's exactly what you want to do if you want to go into trucking. And I believe anybody who's got, if they have the desire and that's what they want and they're willing to work for it, then they most probably will succeed. And, trucking, like I say, is a good, honest profession or occupation.
Very cool. Well, Terry, thank you very much for your time. I really do appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Again, that was trucker Terry Wells talking about his service in the Navy and his career in trucking, as well as the truck that his carrier bought for him with an appearance custom designed to honor his military service. This is the time on the show every day where we urge you to call your members of Congress to talk about the important issues that we discuss here on the program. To call any member of Congress, all you have to do is dial up the U.S. Capitol switchboard. That phone number is 202-224-3121. Provide the operator your zip code and they can connect you directly to the office of your senators or your U.S. congressman. Again, that phone number is 202-224-3121. Meanwhile, if you want to write a letter to your members of Congress or contact state lawmakers, you can do that through the website fightingfortruckers.com. That's our program for today. I'm Mark Reddick, and this is Landline Now.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe. If you want more content, go to landline.media to get updated news, information, and archived editions of our show. Once again, that's landline.media.
I'm a dad.
A son.
A husband.
Wife.
I'm a writer.
Photographer.
I farm.
I'm a veteran.
I love old cars. Fishing.
My kids.
Chrome.
And I am
a professional truck driver.
And together, we are OOIDA.
OOIDA was founded by truckers to stand up and speak on behalf of truckers. We've done that by combining the individual voices of our members into a single, powerful voice. Protecting your interests, defending your rights.
Join us!
Make your voice heard. Join OOIDA, the Owner-Operator Independent Drivers Association. Call 1-800-444-5791 or visit OOIDA.com.